Hello and welcome to video 9 of our database series. I'm going to look at slightly more complex queries here and just other terminology. Now we've touched on all of these on previous things, or most of these in previous videos, but I would like to just wrap it up, and these are definitely things that would be used in both Nat 5 and higher when running queries, so slightly more complex queries. Not as complex as higher generally, but queries with a little bit more than just a greater than or less than. So I'm going to use the band table. I'm going to copy them all across because we're going to use them all for different stages of this. This should all be fairly common to you now, hopefully. And we're going to look at a few terms. So previously we searched for Glasgow, bands in Glasgow. It brings up our bands in Glasgow. There's other things that we can do for this. We could make the option to make it Glasgow or Edinburgh. So now if you search for Glasgow or Edinburgh, it will bring up all the records that are one or the other. You could also decide that you want to see everybody that's not from Glasgow, and you would just put in not Glasgow. And again, that will bring up all the results that are not Glasgow. And you could change that again and make it not Dundee, and we could run it again, and you see the Dundee records are now missing. So if I asked you to exclude anything, the not is what you will use. If it's looking for you to show potentially all the bands from Glasgow and Edinburgh, you would use or. Okay? Now, that can be quite odd because there is actually a formula called and. So, perhaps you might look for Glasgow. You might go not Glasgow and not Edinburgh, and this will only show us bands from out with the central belt, and you see it leaves us with the 4 non-central belt bands because we've done and. Okay, so that's the difference there. You're looking for both. Now we can also search for fields that are empty. You may have heard the phrase null and void. Well, that's where this term comes from. Okay, so if you search for null, it automatically changes to as null for you, so just type null. This is when you're searching for records that have a blank particular field. So for this one, I would like to see all the bands that don't have a contact number on file so that we could get that updated. So I've put as null and contact number, and I'm going to run that, and you'll see it's returned 3 bands that are missing their contact information. One that we've learned previously is range. So we can do between. So for price per hour, you can type the word between, and we could do 200 and 400, and that will bring back all the records that match this criteria. In between, that means 200, between 200 and 400 and inclusive of 200 and 400. And if we run that, you'll see you've got a 400 there to show that it does include the outer limit of your range. Okay, and we could reduce that to between 200 and 300, and it will reduce the number quite a bit again. So these are all different ways of searching the database. They're all different techniques. The last one we have talked about before, and that's the wildcard, but I think it's worth recapping. So wildcard's often used on fields that have got lists within them. So you can see this has got wedding ceremony, wedding reception, and corporate. So say I had a customer that came to me who just wanted to be corporate. We could search for corporate, but the problem with that is going to be that the word corporate, when we look at the table, it's always at the end, or it's in the middle. So, coming back out of that table, what we can do is we can search for corporate, but we can put an asterisk at either side of it, meaning that it will include all the details around it, as long as it has the word corporate inside it. So if we run that again, you'll now see it's returned all the ones that have corporate inside them. And you can't see the end there, let me expand that. Corporate, so all those have corporate events listed for them. Okay, so for Nat 5, that query-wise is about as complicated as it will get for you. That and the sorting going left to right. So this will be the end of our Nat 5 videos.